work week, work day, is completely a modern invention. You understand that, right? That's a modern invention. Working only 8 hours a day and be able to somehow survive on that? That whole idea is just, that would have never happened in Jesus' day. Never. Never. I'm telling you, they worked from sun up till sundown, and it was food gathering and keeping it together and trying not to be killed by plagues and famines and wars and, the Roman invasions and all. I mean, that's what life was like. It's no wonder the average age was, what, 40, 50? I mean, you literally worked yourself to death. And the reason why I'm harping on this, just think about it. This is God instituting a law, if you will, that says you need to stop. Just stop. You say, well, if I don't do that, I have this to do and that to do, and you know what? All that's going to be there tomorrow. It's all going to be there tomorrow. And here's another thing. Brace yourself. Hold on to your seats, everyone. This is going to be a big one. God will provide.
Amen.
Right? So this was insanity in Moses' day, to think that we stop work for one day. Are you crazy? Why, the whole universe will come crashing down around. We got to keep up, make sure that the crops are here, that the cows are milked, and blah, 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 blah. We're going to fall apart. And you know what God was saying? It's A, going to be there tomorrow, and B, I will provide. How about a little faith? Give me a tithe of your time during the week, and I will provide.
For some, it was Saturday.
Sabbath is Saturday. It still is today. The Sabbath is Saturday. Jews to this day honor Saturday because it's the 7th day of the week. The first day of the week is Sunday. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the last day of the week. 7th day is Saturday.
And that's why our Mass time, we have it at night at St. Charles here on Saturday.
Yes, it's the vigil. It counts for the next day. Mm-hmm. Yes, I know this gets into, well, if God created the Sabbath, then how come we don't worship on Saturday?
Well, how did that start?
Ah! What am I describing here?
First creation.
First creation. Jesus came and he's the new creation. When did he rise from the dead? Sunday. And by the way, who is Jesus again?
The Christ.
God.
Son of God.
Who instituted this Sabbath?
God.
So can God change the day from Saturday to Sunday? Yes. Yes. Now you got it. Bingo. God can do whatever he wants. So the Seventh-day Adventists are wrong, or I should say misunderstanding. The Seventh-day Adventist is a Protestant denomination that believes that we should be following the law as it is written, and so they meet on Saturdays, not on Sundays. But that's a misunderstanding of A, who Jesus is, and understanding that because he rose again on Sunday, we honor the day of the new creation, which is greater than the old creation.
So Jewish people still celebrate it on
because they're under the old covenant.
So what separates the seventh day Adventists from the Jewish people? Why can't?
They believe in Jesus.
Oh, okay. And Jewish people don't?
No.
Okay.
Are y'all following this? Okay. You ever wonder? I'm sure you've gotten people think, why do you worship on Sunday when the Ten Commandments say it's Sabbath and Sabbath is on Sunday? It's on Saturday. Well, I'll tell you why. That's why. We honor the day that Jesus rose from the dead, which is greater than this whole creation. Because by rising from the dead, he is going to restore this creation. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So, what I want you to pull from the creation story is this. God is building a cosmic temple. It's formless and empty. He forms it and fills it. And the apex is the creation of man and woman.
Chip, that's so good, cosmic.
Yes, that's why I made it in the form of a house. And the bridge or the roof or what holds it all together is the Sabbath. Because it is the time in which God, for lack of a better term, oathed or promised himself to his creation. He created it and then he united himself with it by oath. And then his commandment to honor the Sabbath day is keeping it going. It's to make sure that you have time to stop, reflect, and honor and worship and love the God of all creation. That you not get so wrapped up in this earthly world that you stop and consider. That was the purpose of the Sabbath. And as Jesus will tell us, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. Okay? We'll get into that later. All right? Now. Yes.
I want to bring up here too, at the time that at the beginning, the day beginning at sunset to next sunset, you see that when God created, it's so good till the night, and day, that one
Yes.
day. It's not from the morning.
Right. The way that we, and that's another thing, that's a very good point, Tony.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
He was saying that when you calculate time, it's from evening till morning, and morning to evening, and morning to evening. And this is how Jews to this day calculate time. The end of the day is when the sun sets. That's the end of that day.
Beginning of the next day.
Beginning of the next day begins, yes. See, in our modern times, we calculate time from midnight to midnight. That's a very weird way of calculating time, I might add. It's very unnatural, for a lack of a better term. What do you mean unnatural? Because it's our nature to understand when the sun comes up, the day begins. When the sun goes down, the day is over. I mean, that just makes sense. And, again, we can't read the Bible with our 21st century mindset. They had no electricity, no lights, no cars. You know, think of Gilligan's Island. No phones, no lights, no motor cars, not a single luxury. Like Robinson Crusoe, it's primitive as can be. Well, that's how most of the universe of human understanding worked. When the sun went down, it gets dark. You can't work anymore. You say, well, they had torches and honey, there wasn't enough torches and lights to keep you going. And that was quite expensive, I may add. Not everyone had that. I mean, they had some, but for the most part, work ended. And then you got up literally at the crack of dawn every day, because that's when the day begins, and we got to use the light when we have it, etc., etc., etc. So that's how they calculated time. Sun up to sundown. So in our crucifixion account, they had to get Jesus off the cross after 3 o'clock because they only had a little time before what? The sun set. And what was the next day? The Sabbath. You can't do any work. You can't bury the dead. You got to get him in the tomb. And that's why it was all quick. Because Jesus died so late. Oh, if he only died at noon, we would have a lot more time for a funeral and all.
For Mass.
Yeah, for Mass. We would have time for Mass.
Eulogies.
He died at 3 o'clock. We got to get him in the tomb by 5:36. Because once the sun set, the day is over. Day's over. See that? So everything happened quickly. Very good point. Yes?
So that leads to Matthew 12, chapter 12, verse 38, when some of the Pharisees and teachers said, "Teacher, we want to see some sign from you." So Jesus replied, "An evil and adulterous generation craves a sign, yet no sign will be given to it except the sign of the prophet Jonah."
Yes.
When Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights, and the Son of Man will be in the heart of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights.
Yes.
So if somebody gonna ask you this, is Jesus really died for 3 days and 3 nights? And they calculate, they say they didn't calculate at this time, they calculate at modern time. So it's Jesus like, oh, Friday, Saturday, not today, it's not 3 days, 3
Right.
nights. So Jesus wasn't accurate. No, it's accurate if we calculate, and if you can explain that to on this part here.
The 3 days and 3 nights. You know what I'm going to do, actually? I have another part of this that I want to get to before the end of time. So if you hold that until another time, I will answer that. Okay? So I'm not going to dodge it, but I want to hold on to it so I can finish what I wanted to lead up to here. And I may need to repeat this anyway when we get to it because it is a bit rich. But I want you to see how Genesis relates to the Gospels. Where is Jesus in the book of Genesis? I'm going to give you a quick run through of something, and depending on how much I get through, I may start what I want to get through and finish it next week. Okay? If we were reading the book of Genesis in Hebrew, we would be calling it not Genesis, but by its Hebrew word, Bereshit, which simply means in the beginning. In the beginning. I'll play this because I think it's interesting. If you want to hear what Genesis 1:1 sounds like in Hebrew, I hope I'm connected. Let me see. Let me see if I'll play it. This is what it sounds like. It didn't connect, did it?
Battery 100%. Connected to TSKTOP 1FHU
Volume up to volume.
Hold on, let me see if I'm connected.
Yeah, you are.
Try again. Play. Okay, try it. Play.
את השמיים ואת הארץ.
Okay.
בראשית ברא אלוהים את השמיים ואת הארץ.
Okay, that's Genesis 1:1 in Hebrew. Let me try it one more time really quick. Let me pump up the volume. Hear it again. Genesis 1:1 in Hebrew.
בראשית ברא אלוהים את השמיים ואת הארץ.
That's in the beginning, God created everything. The very first word is Bereshit. That's how they name all their books in their Bible, by the first word of it. So the book of Exodus, for example, is not called Exodus, it's called the numbering of. You go, the numbering of? Why? Because Exodus 1:1 begins with the numbering of the Hebrews. So it's the first word of each of the books. That's how they name the books. So in Hebrew, the first book of the Bible is Bereshit. So hear it one more time.
בראשית ברא אלוהים את השמיים ואת הארץ.
And again, notice the word bara. That means create. It means create out of nothing. He creates. God is a creator God. He doesn't need extra parts to create. He can do it out of nothing. I just thought that was a little...
Did they say Adonai for God, or do they not name?
No, God is Elohim.
Elohim.
So, Bereshit bara Elohim et hara shamayim ve'et harash. I'm sure I'm butchering the Hebrew. Okay? But this is in the beginning, creates God the heavens and earth. That's the order. Okay? So let me show you it in Hebrew. That's the first line in Hebrew. And since you read from right to left, the first word, and you see this? That's the name of the book, which is what? Bereshit, which means in beginning. He created, God, this, heavens and the earth. That's the first verse. Now you say, but you said we're looking for Jesus in Genesis. How does this help us? Well, Jesus is God. That's it, right? Right. Well, yes. But I want to bring you to this. You see this? You notice there's no translation underneath. This is Aleph, and this is Tav. Say hi. Hi, Aleph and Tav. So, Aleph is the first letter in the Hebrew alphabet. Tav is the last letter in the Hebrew alphabet. These two letters come right after the name of God, Elohim.